Black Belt Selling with Stephanie and Anna Scheller. I'm Anna.
And I'm Stephanie.
We're a mother-daughter team who are passionate about helping you grow your business through sales, training, and coaching. On Black Belt Selling, we bring amazing guests as well as give you phenomenal content so that you can take this information, you can work with it, you can begin to put into practice those very things that you need to do in order to grow your business by making more sales. You can find us at our Facebook group, www.facebook.com/groups/Black Belt Selling. There you find amazing content. You also see motivational posts that some of our members post, as well as get to meet some of the people that we get to bring on our show. So make sure that you run over to www.facebook.com/groups/Black Belt Selling. Now, Stephanie, today we don't have a guest. Instead, we're talking about an extremely important subject, one that a lot of people know is important, but they really don't put into practice in their own life. And yet it is this one piece that is really going to be the determiner of whether or not you are going to make it in sales. And so why don't you introduce our topic today?
So our topic today, what boggles my mind is that for as much as we as human beings know we need help with this, we still shy away from it all the time. We go and, I get people who give me like 30 excuses, 10 ways from Sunday, why they're fine, or why they'll do, some of these options that we're going to talk about that don't work to create accountability for you. So the crazy thing that I've learned again and again, and actually let me back this up, because I remember the first time that I realized accountability was so important, because I'm a super, super motivated person, right? Like my coaches, my horseback riding coach when I was a kid would always tell me, Stephanie, you're one in a million, because usually, I did not like showing. I would go take these riding lessons with her, but I did not like going and doing shows. And she was like, Stephanie, typically when I'm teaching someone, they have to, in order to stay motivated to keep improving, they have to go to these shows because they know they want to rank higher, and it creates this accountability for them to keep working. Whereas you just work on your own. So I never understood the importance of accountability until I remember sitting down one time with this guy. And we're just chatting, had a lot of respect for him. And he looked at me and he says, Stephanie, do you know what it is that you as a coach bring? That's the most valuable thing you bring to the table. And I'm like, well, ideas and this and that. Right? And I'm giving him, 3 different things that, the most important thing that I provide. Right. And I'm giving him 3 options. And he goes, no, the single most important thing you provide is accountability. Because that is why your clients will pay you every single month for the rest of your life, because they need that accountability. And if you can't provide it for them, they'll go find somebody else. And for a long time, I kind of was like, that didn't, like, I was like, oh my gosh, no. Because that lowers what I do to this base level. I'm this amazing idea producer. And the more I thought about it, the more I started to realize, no, he was absolutely right. We know what we need to do. We just don't do it.
Exactly. And I remember in black belt training, it was, I knew I needed to do certain activities. I knew I needed to participate in certain regular practices, but it was not until I actually started to have to tell somebody how many push-ups I did, how many sit-ups I did, how many times I did my forms, that, to be honest, I actually did them.
Yeah.
And there was, I just got back from a camp with some kids, and there were 2 kids that are getting ready for their black belt, and they looked at each other and they said, you know what, we have to make time. Fortunately, they held each other accountable, which was really cool. But they said, we have to make the time to do this. Because the other part of it was, if they didn't and they turned in their sheets and they didn't get stuff done, there were consequences that they had to be willing to stand up and take responsibility for. So I'm looking at, on my computer here, I'm looking at some really cool quotes about accountability. And one that I'm seeing is accountability is the glue that ties commitment to the result. And I think that's a great segue to
that's
what
really
we want
good.
to talk about, the importance of accountability.
Yeah, I think it, and you know what? I think that's absolutely right. See, I love business owners. I love what we do. I love how we, you know, in my opinion, the small business owner, the medium-sized business owner, we're the ones who keep the wheels of the economy going. You know, we're not the Walmarts. We're not the, but you know what? If it were just up to Walmart, Walmart would no longer be the cheapest place around to go shopping. So I think it's great that we've got these guys. But yeah, it's very easy because I think as human beings, and it's just how we kind of have developed over the past few years, you know, right back, you know, hundreds and thousands of years ago when they were having to draw water from the well, they would have to dig the well and they had to do all this work just to survive. You know, we've gotten to where we are today because we as humans are always looking for the easiest path. We're always looking for a way to do things easier, faster, and better. And so I don't want to rag on that because I think that's what's made us as humans amazing. But at the same time, you've also got to realize that may be what's made us as humans amazing, but it is also what keeps us at the status quo. And the accountability is what forces us to continue growing, to continue evolving, because I think we've reached a point where we're very comfortable. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, like way comfortable. And even after you get your black belt, Stephanie, let's face it, if we don't hold ourselves accountable, we tend to slide back. I mean, there's no holding ground here. It takes energy to hold ground. And if you're not focused on putting out energy to hold ground, we're going to talk about the importance of that. But if you're not making forward motion, you're sliding back because we are on an uphill climb. And plateaus are great, but plateaus even erode. We have to continually move forward. And if we have big goals, we have to be willing to make ourselves accountable, because the only way to achieve what you want to achieve in life is when you have someone who holds you accountable. And that's one of the things I look for in a coach. Are you going to hold me accountable for what I say I want to do? Are you going to ask me the tough questions? The tough questions that are going to make me really think, is this important? Is this goal that important to me? Am I willing to make a sacrifice for it? How important is this goal to me? And so,
well, yeah, because I think that's why we need the accountability, because oftentimes in order to achieve our goals, we do have to sacrifice, and that's not easy. Mm-mm. We're sitting here and I'm going, no, wait a second. You want me to right? You know, so for example, you know, the 4th of July, you and I were working on the 4th of July, right? A lot of people are out there celebrating our freedom. We're out there
creating it.
We're creating freedom, right?
We
but that takes a sacrifice. And the thing is, that requires accountability, because I can tell you this, when you texted me that morning and you're like, hey, Stephanie, I'm all like, no, I was just going to totally take the day off. I needed to get stuff done. But for several minutes, I was sitting there going, I'm not texting back. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see it. And then I was like, no, I can't do that, because that's that accountability side. Because even the thing to realize is this, it doesn't matter how motivated you are, when you get into the moment, when you get overwhelmed and overcome, you are going to look for the path of least resistance. That accountability is what's going to force you, push you, hold you accountable to keep moving towards your goals.
Now, we're not saying that everybody should be working on the 4th of July. We actually had made an agreement last week that we were going to do this. So we're not telling you go out and work on the 4th of July. This was something we had prearranged to do. And even the amazing Stephanie had second thoughts about meeting me this morning. That's okay. That's okay. So that's actually a great way to move into our next topic, which is why don't we engage in accountability? And let's face it, we tend to believe a couple of different lies about ourselves. One is that we're actually doing better than we think we really are. We're actually doing great. Somebody comes up to you and positive thinking, affirmations, yes, I'm great. The other one is, oh my gosh, I'm getting nowhere in a hurry. So the thing is with accountability, what we don't want to do is we actually don't want to see the real truth about ourselves, because we don't like to know what the real me is doing. We like to believe either that we're never going to make it, or that we really don't need to work that hard to get there. But accountability, it looks us square in the face and says, this is really what you're doing. And you have to look at it. And the cool thing is, we'll talk about what makes accountability work, but one of the cool things about accountability is now you know the truth. You know where you really stand, and you can actually make meaningful change. And that's what accountability is for. It's to make meaningful change. What's your take on that, Steph?
Well, I think that's kind of the point, right? We've touched on this one, but it is. The point of accountability is that we often don't want to. You talk about, we don't want to face the truth. We don't want to, it's much easier to just keep living in our little world. But the thing is, there's a quote out there, I love it, right? If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you always got. And if it's up to us, most of the time we'll keep doing what we've always done, just because that human nature is to find the path of least resistance, the easiest way. And think about it this way. Remember when I was a kid, and Dad would get so mad at us kids because we had the driveway was over here, right? And you had to come across the lawn to get to the front door of the house. And we would all come across the lawn, and there was a little flower bed right here. Here's the door. There's a little flower bed, and we would all run right around the flower bed, and it ended up like wearing thin. All right, and Dad would get so upset with us because there would be no grass there. And so he'd put up these little fences and all these things to stop us and make us drive new paths. But think about it that way, right? We've done the same thing over and over. That's the path of least resistance. That's the easiest path to go through. We've worn down the grass and the weeds to where it's not hard to go through that particular path. But until you start doing something different, you're going to keep getting the same result. So it kind of brings us to the next point. It's work. It's work to go, right? Think about, that we were just talking about little grass, this thick. St. Augustine, it doesn't grow that tall. But still, think about, if you leave it for 6 months. But
actually, never mind. Keep going.
But if you think about like the grasses on the islands of Chincoteague, right? They're like, 6 foot tall. And it's work to push through those. It's hard work. You're having to like push these blades of grass aside that are huge and they're heavy and they're tall, and it's not easy. See, accountability holds us to the fact that, change is work. And we have to continue to work at it.
It is. And the thing that we think is that work is bad, but really work is good. Now, you do have to do the things for self-care. That's one thing that sometimes, because we're so focused on our goals, we don't take care of ourselves. That's for a whole other episode of Black Belt Selling, because it's equally important to take care of yourself. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you don't have the energy to create the change that you're looking for. And it does take work. Yeah. There's just no getting around it. I actually am working with an accountability coach right now. And you know what? Sometimes I don't want to sit down at the end of the day, and I don't want to write out what I've done, what I'm trying to accomplish.
Or didn't do.
What?
Or didn't do.
Or didn't do. Why I'm rating myself a certain way. But it takes work. But I made a commitment that I know this is important for me to make the changes in my life that I want to make. And so I do it anyway. It's work. It's work. I even remember, like last night, I've spent the last 4 days with 12 teenagers out in the wilderness. Let me tell you, we were hiking an average of 5 miles a day. And I'm talking hiking. This isn't walking down the street for 5 miles on level ground. This is rocks. This is sliding. And it's also dealing with kids who want to go home because they miss their parents, and kids who don't want to do the activity because they're afraid. So I was exhausted. I got home last night and all I wanted to do was rest. So I told myself I'm going to get a little rest, and then I'm going to send accountability to this person. And he knew I was going to be out of town. So, he and he knew I wasn't going to have any kind of internet to contact him. So all I did was, but I made myself do it. I got a little bit of rest, and then I sat up and I said, okay, I'm committed to this because this is going to help me. It was work. It was energy. But once I got into it, it wasn't so bad. And that's the other thing, is that you have to just step into it. But the main reason that we don't step out is because it makes us uncomfortable to be accountable. And that's really the bottom line. Why don't we have accountability in our lives? Because it's uncomfortable. We do not like revealing to other people how we haven't measured up. But
sometimes it's not even just revealing to other people. Sometimes we don't even like facing it for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, have you ever had that moment? And I'm sure a lot of our entrepreneurial people will associate with this one, where you don't check the bank account because as long as you don't check it, you don't know how low it is. It's like that moment. You're sitting there going, I'm not going to check because as long as I don't look, I don't have to freak out. Right? It's like when you don't weigh in on the scale, because as long as you don't weigh in, you don't know how much weight you gained over Christmas. Right? Let me just not look. I'm just going to put my little blinders on. I'm going to just not look, because as long as I don't look, the world can be crashing and burning around me, and I'm fine. The thing about accountability is that it makes you uncomfortable. The reason it makes you uncomfortable is that it creates growth.
Mm-hmm.
And growth is not comfortable. You think about that seed in the ground. It's going to have to fight and push through the dirt. It's going to have to create its own path to success. It is going to have to work its butt off to be successful here. The seed is going to have to fight to grow. And you know what? People think, well, once it gets above the surface, it's fine. No, once it gets above the surface, the roots still have to keep fighting downwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because the roots have to keep going in order to support that big growth. So growth is always going to be difficult. In and of its, just its definition, it's not going to be something that's easy. It's not going to be comfortable. Yeah. And accountability creates growth. And I think if you had to break it down to the number one reason we avoid accountability, I think it's exactly that. It makes us uncomfortable. And it's easier to just not look at the bank account, not weigh in on the scale, not look at where you are currently, and just think that you're making things happen.
Exactly. You see, you either make yourself accountable or you will be held accountable by your circumstances. It's inescapable. Take the high road and make yourself accountable. Now, we're going to talk now about keys to accountability, but Stephanie, why don't you talk to our listeners a little bit about the download that we have created for them, because there's nothing on Black Belt Selling that we do that we don't want to give you tools and the wherewithal in order to accomplish your goals to make more money. So Stephanie, would you share just briefly, and we'll go again at the end and we'll share this with you again. But for the moment, let's talk about that.
So one of the things that Mom and Anna and I have switched to doing here over the past few months is that every time it's just us here on the show, we are going to not just give you great content, but also give you a worksheet or a workbook so you can take what we're teaching you and go implement it. So this time, instead of just giving you a workbook to check your accountability, what we created is a weekly worksheet for you to check and hold yourself accountable. How cool is that? And we are going to be giving it away to you absolutely, positively free, because we believe accountability is important, and we believe the more successful you are, the more successful that makes us, because we have helped you reach that level. And so that's what we do this for. So we have a worksheet that you can use weekly. And at the end of the show, we will give you ideas on how you can get access to it.
Awesome. So at the end of the program, you're going to want to listen, because we're going to give you the opportunity to get that download so that you can begin your steady growth to progress through account. Go for it.
All right. Well, welcome back. Before we took our quick little break right there and made mom look human again, you got to address the elephant in the room, right? So before we took our quick break, we were talking about the importance of accountability and why we as human beings tend to shy away from accountability. Now, we want to break down the keys to making accountability work. So what we want to talk about, of course, any key to making something work is also you got to know what doesn't work, right? So the first thing we're actually going to talk about are keys to accountability that people try that do not produce accountability. And this first one is probably the one that I hear from people all the time. And we're probably going to get somebody who's going to send us a dirty message or a dirty letter or something about how dare you, because they've tried it or they're trying it or whatever. But I remember when I first started working for as a sales trainer, I picked up another sales trainer to be my accountability coach. And or not accountability coach, but we were going to be accountability partners. And so every week at the end of the week, we were going to message each other, and we were really clear, right? So a lot of times accountability coaches or partners are like, yeah, we're going to meet, we'll talk. And then their talk really turns into like a coffee chat. But me and this other lady, we were super clear. We're like, okay, we're going to send each other these numbers at the end of every week. We're going to send this, we're going to send this, we're going to do this. And so we set everything up, and the end of the week, I sent her all of my numbers, and I heard nothing back. The end of the next week, I sent her all my numbers again, and I heard nothing back. And finally, I messaged her, and I said, okay, what's going on? I thought we were doing this. She goes, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Steph. It's just been crazy here. I haven't been able to get anything done, and I felt bad because, you were sending me your numbers, and I just didn't have any numbers to send you. And so it just completely fizzled and died right away. And so many people do this. They try to get an unpaid accountability partner or an accountability coach. I've had 3 or 4 people lately tell me, Stephanie, especially in network marketing companies, this is very, very common, where they say, well, I'm just going to talk to my upline. I'll talk to, or talk to my boss or talk to my upline. I'll just go up the line. And I'm like, well, I'll let you share, Bob. What do you think the problem with that is?
Well, there's no real accountability. Accountability works if there's real accountability. And here's the thing. Number one, while your upline is invested in you accomplishing something, they're also invested in what they have to do to recruit new members. And so their focus is not necessarily going to be to help you grow. Now, maybe I might be wrong. I totally get that. Good upline coaches will take the time. The problem with that is that you are not invested in your own growth at that point. You're kind of relying on them to help you pull you up by your bootstraps. And so when you're not paying for someone to hold you accountable, whether it's one person or it's a group of people, that's why paid masterminds work. If I'm paying $1,000 for someone to help me get results, you're darn tootin' I'm going to make sure I'm going to get my money's worth. At least I hope you would. We call it skin in the game, Stephanie. It's skin in the game. If I don't have something invested in that person holding my feet to the fire, then I really don't have anything to protect. It was part of the very sad thing that resulted in the 2008 recession. You see, for years and years and years prior to that, what happened was there was a big housing boom because houses were selling. And the reason houses were selling is because there were programs to help people buy homes without having any down payment. When the payments got to be too much, so let's say today life is good and your job is going well, and 6 months after you move into that house, suddenly you've lost your job or there's downsizing or something's happened in the economy and you no longer can pay the 2 mortgages that you now have because you had no money in it, the thing is that because a lot of these people did not have the discipline to save up money for the houses, they also did not have the discipline to care about their reputation. They had nothing invested in the house, so for them to walk away from the house cost them nothing.
Yeah.
Now, yes, it cost them money in the long run, but I'm talking about the immediate situation.
It was the path of least resistance. It was the easiest method, as we talked about earlier.
Exactly. So you can't, you absolutely have to have some skin in the game. If $50 a month is a stretch for you, I want to tell you, find someone that you have to pay $50 a month. If $200 is a stretch, it has to be a bit of a stretch. It can't be easy money you throw out. It has to be money that costs and hurts a little bit, because for you to make the commitment to put yourself out there and tell somebody, like the young lady that you're talking about, well, I don't know if she was young or not, but the fact that she didn't have numbers, that should have been, she should have still been giving them to you, because by the fact she would have forced herself to give them to you,
at least
probably would have gotten better results.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm, the thing is this, right? If you're not going to pay me, I'm not going to hold you accountable, because it's not easy, right? You and I are coaches, and we actually coach and work with people, and it's not easy to hold someone accountable. That means I have to go be the bad guy, and that's not necessarily fun, right? Mm-hmm. When I have to show up to a meeting and I know I'm going to have to call someone on the carpet, it sucks. I hate going to those meetings. And so I show up, the whole way over there, my entire drive over to that meeting, in my head, I'm just playing, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? How am I going to be fair, just, honest, and call them on the carpet without being a jerk? And you start playing, it's tough. And so if you're not paying me to do that, I'm just not going to do it. As soon as it comes time for me to call you on the rug, I'm just going to say, you know what? I don't have that kind of time. This person obviously is not interested, and I'll move on to the next person.
Right.
And that is how every single person you might want to use for your accountability partner or coach, unpaid, is going to do.
And it's not because they don't care about you, but you have to think about what's going to give them the best return for their money. There are people who actually just pay me to ask them every week, what have you done? What did you do? One woman did that. She paid me every month to hold her accountable. And you know what? She is doing phenomenally well. Why? Not because I'm a great person, but because she paid me to hold her feet to the fire to help her get the results she wanted. And now she's doing extremely well. And so she's not giving up the accountability, because she knows that's the key to helping her continue her growth. If she gets comfortable, she knows that getting comfortable is going to defeat every step of progress she made. She's going to end up taking steps backwards instead of steps forward. So you want to pay for accountability, not just so that you make yourself do it, but so that your coach feels an obligation to make sure that you are getting what you paid for, which is someone to ask you the hard questions.
And this is why I recommend you shy away from people. You will find when you start going out and talking to people about being your accountability partner or coach, a lot of them will offer to do it for free. When they do that, it's time to run. Get away from that scenario, because the problem is that they are not actually there to take care of you. And they're not trying, they're trying to be nice about it. I get it. But when push comes to shove, they're not going to actually get involved. They're not going to hold you accountable. So when someone offers to do it for free, your job is to either say, no, I want to pay you. I need to pay you, because it creates, then they're sitting there going, I have to earn this money this guy's giving me. Or they say, you know what, if you're looking for someone to pay, I'm not your person. I've got a client right now who that is, she said, I spoke with 3 other people, Stephanie, none of them would let me pay them. So I'm coming to you.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. You said, well, you might be thinking, okay, but I can hold myself accountable. I can hold myself accountable. Here's the thing. How's that going for you? The Dr. Phil line. So how's that working for you? Here's the thing. Accountability is about telling someone else. Yes, you have to hold yourself accountable. You have to take that responsibility. So last night I did have an option. I had an option, and I had every right not to send that email to that person. I did. I had been out in the sun. I had a lot of reasons why it was in my best interest to just lay down and wait until tomorrow to send an email. But the thing was, is I'm committed to my own growth. And I know that if I let myself do that one day, what's going to happen? I'm going to find reasons the next day, and I'm going to find reasons the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And before I know it, a week's going to go by, and I will have lost all the ground I gained, because we tend to be nicer to ourselves. We tend, and especially, I'm going to talk to the people, Stephanie, who are hard on themselves. You don't understand, Anna. I'm hard on myself. I will make myself do it. But the thing is if you're not accountable to someone else, there's going to come a point where you're going to say, well, you know what? I can take the day off today. You know what? I can take the day off tomorrow. I've worked so hard. I deserve to give myself a little bit, cut myself a little bit of slack.
Yeah.
Now, when we get into the things that'll make accountability really good, a good accountability coach or a good accountability mastermind is going to understand those days when you do need to cut yourself some slack. But having an outside opinion, looking from the outside, someone looking at your life that's not you, is going to be able to call you on whether you really need that, or you're just fooling yourself and you're trying to pull away from your own success. And I don't know, there's something about an outside perspective. I mean, if you don't, it's like Taekwondo. Why do we look in a mirror? We look in a mirror because we think we're doing what we should be doing. And in actuality, we're not. Why do we have coaches? Because they help us. We think we're doing what we ought to do. And they're going to say, you can do better than this. And isn't that what you want? Isn't that why people are accountable?
Well, yeah, and think about it this way too. Sometimes we get caught up in our day-to-day routine. And so having that outside third party who can sit there and say, you know what, you have been pushing really hard. You do deserve the break. Or, you know what, this seems like to be like it's becoming a habit and a pattern. And you're taking a break every single week. And you're going to lose your momentum. All the momentum you've built so far is going to be gone as of next week if you don't turn this around right now. So one of the big keys is to find a paid accountability. And look, you don't even have to talk to Anna and I. There are so many options out there for accountability coaches or for masterminds. I mean, for me personally, I don't do just straight up plain accountability coaching anymore. But you know, there are options out there. There are people out there who can hold you accountable, and we recommend you find someone or someones to participate in. Find like a paid mastermind group that holds you accountable. I've got a great group that I run and I participate in, and it's a free group. And it's more of an idea generator group than an accountability group. We do not hold each other accountable. We kind of did at the beginning, but it was free. And so very quickly, I stopped wanting to hold people accountable to doing stuff because, you know, we would set these goals to accomplish by the next meeting. And then people wouldn't want to talk about it. And because I wasn't getting paid, I wasn't going to sit there and call them on the carpet. And so it's a great thing for ideas. It's not a great thing for accountability. So I would recommend, if you're finding you need that accountability, find yourself a paid group that you have to pay to join that holds you accountable to be involved, to show up, to do the work you're supposed to be doing. Number 2 that we want to talk about is publicly sharing your goals in a place that you feel accountable for accomplishing them. So, you know, I see people all the time post on Facebook, hey, I'm doing this, I'm losing weight, I'm building a business, I'm whatever, I'm quitting drinking, I'm whatever. The problem is there is so much content shared on Facebook at this point that no one is ever going to follow up with you and say, hey, I thought you were losing weight, right? We all have so much in our news feeds. It's impossible to keep track of that. So share your goals in a place you feel accountable for making that happen. So, you know, I've got a networking group that I go to every week, and I'll share a goal in that group every so often so that I feel like I can't show up again at this group until I've accomplished X, Y, Z. So think about places that you could share your goals, public places. Either you can post it or somewhere where, people are going to, you are going to feel accountable to them to show up and do this. This isn't accountability off in the corner by yourself. This is you feeling accountable to this group to not show up until you have accomplished what you said you were going to accomplish. And I love our last idea here on what does work, keys to accountability. Why don't you share this one, Mom?
Well, I came across this reading a book called Triggers by Marshall Goldsmith. So for our listeners, I will tell you I'm actively working to get Marshall on the show. The book is phenomenal. It's called Triggers, and it goes into a lot more depth about it. But what this particular technique is I'm going to put it in contrast what's normally done for accountability. So normally for accountability, we have our list. We've got my goal is this, X, Y, Z, and accountability is, did I check it off? Did I make the calls? Did I do this? Did I do that? And it's just basically pretty static, a yes or no answer. Now, there's nothing wrong with it. So if you're doing that and that's helping you, continue. I'm going to add a new dimension, a new layer to it that this Dr. Goldsmith, through his book Triggers, I highly recommend it. It's a great book, but it's going to really help you. And that is, don't ask just, did I do it or did I not? Those are kind of passive questions, yes or no. But ask yourself active questions. An active question is, did I do my best to? Because see, with a yes or no answer, if I didn't do it, okay, I can put that off. But if I ask myself, did I do my best to make phone calls today? You and you alone know the answer to that. Now, don't fool yourself into believing you did when you didn't, because you're doing this to help yourself. And if you're lying to yourself, it isn't going to work.
Right.
However, if you start asking, did I do my best to do this? And then you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is, I didn't do anything. And 10 is, oh my gosh, I knocked it out of the park. You will have actually something you're measuring about how you're moving. And if you're measuring your activity, if you're measuring your intent, if you're measuring your energy and your drive, you're actually going to start seeing progress, because then you look at it and go, okay, today I didn't. Now, why didn't I? Well, I had these interruptions. Life happens. We have those interruptions. Mm-hmm. So tomorrow I'm going to, and it causes you to evaluate, what am I going to do different tomorrow that I didn't do today to get me moving forward? Then when you go to your accountability person, your mastermind or your coach, a very important key is that that person does not judge any of your scores or any of your answers. They're simply there to hear you talk to yourself about what you want to change. You see, and those two things are extremely powerful. The power of the paid person, the paid mastermind, and asking yourself these very important questions. Mm-hmm. If you want real progress, then this is the kind of accountability program you need to be working on.
And speaking of these amazing active questions,
yes,
we have a phenomenal 2-page weekly worksheet for you to be filling out for yourself every single week to help build that accountability. And you know what? One of those questions is, who will hold you accountable this week? And we want to encourage you guys to go over to our website at www.Scheller Enterprises. That's Scheller, S as in Scheller, C as in Charlie, H as in hotel, ELLER, SchellerEnterprises.com /black belt selling. you will find space on that page to download your copy of this accountability worksheet. And I would encourage you to save it to your computer and come back to it every single week. There's a place to go there if you need help, if you need additional help, and you can set up a quick, free consultation with one of us if you need that. But the goal with this worksheet is to give you something tangible that you will sit there and you will have to fill out for yourself every single week, and to have a person that you can go to, that you're going to go to with this worksheet, that is going to create that accountability for you. So we encourage you guys to check it out. That is www.schellerenterprises.com/black belt selling. And in the meantime, I want to encourage you guys to join us again next week. As usual, we bring in amazing guests all the time. We work very hard to bring you guys powerful content and understand that accountability is one of the keys to success in business. We encourage you to join us in our Facebook group as well. That is facebook.com/groups/black belt selling. We can't wait to see you guys again next week. In the meantime, go out there and whatever it is you sell, go sell more. Let's make it a great week.